Have you ever noticed that when people talk about simulation theory, they usually mean one thing: a giant computer, an advanced civilization? It's also the version popularized by Nick Bostrom and discussed by Elon Musk: a digital universe running somewhere on a really powerful machine. That's certainly one possibility, but over the past few years, I've started wondering if we're asking the wrong question. Maybe the real question isn't, do we live in a simulation? Maybe it's, what kind of simulation are we talking about? Because when you start looking across physics, neuroscience, artificial intelligence, philosophy, religion, and consciousness, you start finding something interesting. Almost every field has its own version of reality being simulated. So let's explore them. You are now tuned into the simulation frequency. On tonight's episode, we're going to explore all the multiple ways that we could be possibly living in a simulation. There isn't just one way to look at this, there are several, and multiple people in the comments section have brought this up, so I really wanted to do a video on it. So without further ado, let's get started. How about the computer simulation? This is the version most people already know. The idea is simple. A civilization becomes so technologically advanced that it can simulate universes. Eventually, those simulated civilizations become advanced enough to create simulations of their own. Those simulations create more simulations, and statistically, the number of simulated worlds eventually becomes larger than the amount of original worlds. And if that's true, the odds may actually favor us living inside one. It's a fascinating argument, but it's only one possibility. I love the brain simulation. Here's something we know with much greater confidence. Your brain already simulates reality. You never really experience the outside world directly. Light enters your eyes. Pressure stimulates your skin. Vibrations reach your ears. Electrical signals travel through your nervous system. And your brain constructs the colors you see, the sounds you hear, even your perception of time. They're all generated inside your mind. In that sense, every one of us is already living inside of a simulation. Not one created by a computer, but one created by our own nervous system. And how about the dream simulation? This is my favorite. A possibility that has fascinated philosophers for thousands of years. What if waking reality isn't as different from dreaming as we assume? Think about your last vivid dream. While you were inside it, it probably felt real. You saw people. You heard conversations. You experienced emotions. You moved through places that felt physical. You probably weren't thinking, this is just a dream. Only after waking did you realize the entire experience had been generated by your own mind. That raises an uncomfortable question. What allows us to say that we're not in the same exact position right now? Every test we perform, every object we touch, every conversation we have is ultimately another experience happening inside consciousness. Now, that doesn't mean waking life is literally a dream. Dreams behave differently. They often lack consistency. The laws of physics can change from one moment to the next. People transform into someone else. Entire cities disappear and appear. Our waking world is remarkably stable by comparison, but stability alone doesn't answer deeper philosophical questions. How do we know the consciousness itself isn't operating within layers? Every morning we wake from one reality into another. Every night we leave this world and enter into another one. What if the boundary between dreaming and waking isn't as absolute as we think? Many spiritual traditions have explored this idea. Some Buddhist teachings compare ordinary life to a dream. Certain Hindu philosophies describe waking life as Maya, or appearance. Even modern neuroscience cannot fully explain why dreams feel so convincingly real while we're experiencing them. Perhaps dreams are simply random brain activity, brain organizing memory. Or perhaps they reveal something important. Consciousness is capable of generating entire worlds from within itself. If that's true, then the question becomes even bigger. Are dreams simulations created inside consciousness? Or is waking life simply the most stable simulation we experience? What about consciousness simulation? Some philosophers take that idea even further. What if consciousness isn't produced by the brain? What if consciousness is fundamental and matter emerges from it? Researchers like Donald Hoffman and philosopher Bernard Kastrup have argued that what we perceive may be more like a user interface than objective reality. Think about your computer desktop. When you drag a blue folder into the trash, you're not actually moving billions of microscopic transistors. You're interacting with an interface. It simplifies something far more complicated. And what if reality works the same way? Then there's the information simulation. Physics has gradually shifted from thinking of reality as simply matter to thinking more and more about information. DNA stores information. Black holes appear to preserve information. Quantum physics often describes information rather than tiny physical objects. Some physicists have even suggested that information could be more fundamental than matter itself. If that's true, perhaps the universe isn't made of things. Perhaps it's made of information. And then there's the mathematical reality. Mathematician Mark Tegmark proposed something remarkable. Maybe mathematics doesn't merely describe reality. Maybe mathematics is reality. Every law of physics, every orbit, every atom, every galaxy could simply be an expression of mathematical relationships. Reality may not be following equations. Reality actually may be equations. And then we have the quantum simulation. Quantum mechanics presents another strange picture. Particles don't always appear to have definite properties until they're measured. Probability plays an extraordinary role. The deeper physicists investigate, the stranger reality becomes. No, this doesn't prove consciousness creates reality, nor does it prove that we're living inside of a simulation. But it reminds us that the universe behaves very differently from everyday intuition. Then there's a holographic universe. It's another one of my favorite ideas. Some theoretical physicists have suggested that everything inside of our three-dimensional universe may actually be encoded on a distant two-dimensional boundary. Imagine watching a hologram. It appears three-dimensional, but all the information creating that image exists on a flat surface. Again, this isn't proof, but if true, our experience of space itself may not be fundamental. Now consider artificial intelligence. We're already creating systems capable of generating texts, images, voices, and perhaps one day, consciousness. If humanity eventually creates conscious AI, what happens when AI creates conscious AI? And then that intelligence creates another generation. Eventually, someone asks the same question we're asking today. Who created us? The recursion becomes difficult to escape. And then there's cultural simulations. This one people don't discuss that often. Human beings don't only live inside a physical reality. We live inside shared ideas. Money, national borders, corporations, laws, status, fashion, markets. These are systems created collectively. They influence our behavior every day. In many ways, society itself is a simulation, a shared agreement that becomes real because enough people believe in it. And then there's the religious simulations. So long before computers existed, many religious traditions suggested something similar. In Hindu philosophy, there's Maya, the world of appearances. Plato described prisoners mistaking shadows for reality. Buddhism teaches that our ordinary experience is shaped by illusion and attachment. Gnostic traditions describe humanity as trapped inside of a false world. Different cultures, different language, remarkably similar questions. And then there's one final idea. Evolution doesn't necessarily reward organisms for seeing reality accurately. It rewards survival. Donald Hoffman argues that natural selection favors useful perceptions, not necessarily true ones. Perhaps our senses aren't windows into objective reality at all. Perhaps they're more like icons on a computer screen. Simple, useful, and efficient, but hiding the deeper processes underneath. So, do we live in a simulation? Maybe. I think so. But perhaps that's no longer the interesting question, because depending on who you ask, a simulation can mean a computer-generated universe, a reality constructed by the brain, a mathematical structure, an informational universe, a hologram, a conscious interface, a cultural construct, or simply the limited model your mind builds to help you survive. Maybe all of these ideas are pointing towards the same realization. Not that reality is fake, but that reality may be far stranger and far deeper than our everyday experience suggests. Perhaps we're not discovering one simulation theory. Perhaps we're discovering that every major field of human knowledge eventually arrives at the same destination. The world that we experience may not be the world as it truly is. And if that's true, the biggest mystery isn't whether we're living inside of a simulation. The biggest mystery is what reality looks like once the interface disappears. So remember, if you enjoy content like this, please like and subscribe. And until the next time, remember to stay curious and to keep following the White Rabbit. Bye, guys.
Born in the code, the avatar breathe. Subconscious scripts like roots beneath the trees. Dopamine sparks, serotonin flows. Electrical charges writing what we know. Half of me moving, half of me gone. What is the difference when the code runs on? I'm dream walking in a simulation between the glitch and the revelation. Autopilot runs but the player decides. I can program our fate, I can shift my life. Plugged to the earth, binaural skies. Flashing lights, rewire my mind. Grounded in charge and trained in sound. I find the reality I want all around. Pain is a signal, a thalamus gate. Turn off the circuit, the warning can wait. Mirror my neurons, I feel what you do. Empathy copies reality too. The subconscious whispers, I'll take the wheel. It runs what I practice, it makes it real. From breath in the gut to coherence of heart. I am the dreamer who programs the start. Dream walking in a simulation between the glitch and the revelation. Autopilot runs but the player decides. I can program my fate, I can shift my life. Plugged to the earth, binaural skies. Flashing lights, rewire my mind. Grounded in charge and trained in sound. I find the reality I want all around. Deep sleep repairs anesthesia blinds. Lucid dreams open the sandbox of time. Sleepwalkers wander with bodies alone, while a conscious mind drifts far from home. But I stand at the seam where waking is dreaming and dreaming redeems. With novel intentions, a micro step true. I shift the whole sim with the smallest for dream. I can turn the glitch into revelation. Autopilot runs but the player decides. I can program my fate, I can shift my life. I can climb to your earth, binaural skies. Flashing lights, rewire my mind. Grounded in charge and trained in sound. I find the reality I want all around.